Have you ever noticed that you spend your entire life running from something that never arrives? The fear you carry isn't about the future. It's about an illusion you've learned to call reality. What if I told you that everything you fear is just a game you forgot you were playing? Most people live as if they're constantly on the edge of a cliff. They wake up with that uncomfortable feeling in their chest, as if something terrible is about to happen. They compulsively check their phones. They obsessively plan. They build security walls higher and higher. And yet, the fear remains, because you're fighting an invisible enemy, trying to win a game whose rules you never questioned. Alan Watts, the philosopher who challenged the West to awaken, spent decades investigating this psychological prison. And what he discovered goes against everything you've been taught about protection, control, and survival. Let's start with the obvious that nobody wants to admit. You weren't born with fear. Watch a small child. She touches fire, falls, gets hurt, and seconds later is laughing again. She doesn't carry the weight of what happened or the anxiety of what might happen. She simply exists. So what changed? What transformed that free being into someone who wakes up at 3 in the morning, worried about conversations that haven't happened yet, problems that don't exist yet, deaths that haven't arrived yet? The answer is simple and disturbing. You were trained by a society that sells security as a product and fear as motivation. Trained by institutions that profit from your anxiety. Trained by a culture that confuses prudence with paranoia. And gradually, you internalized a belief system so deep that now it seems like your own voice, but it's not. Watts called this the game of life taken too seriously. He said that at some point in human history, we forgot we were playing. It's like watching children play cops and robbers. They run, scream, hide, but they all know it's a game. Now imagine one of the children forgets this. She starts to really believe she's a pursued criminal, that her life depends on it. The game becomes terror. That's exactly what happened to humanity. We created roles, systems, hierarchies, rules, and then we forgot that we created all of this. Now we live terrified by our own inventions. We work at jobs we hate to pay for houses where we barely live, to impress people we don't even like, following a script we never questioned. And we call this adult life, responsibility, reality. But Watts asks, what if the real responsibility is to wake up from this collective hypnosis? Think with me. What is the real origin of your fear? Not the superficial excuse like, I'm afraid of losing my job, or I'm afraid of being alone. Go deeper. The fundamental fear, the one that sustains all others, is the fear of not existing. It's the terror that you, this thing you call I, might disappear. And here's the great paradox that Watts loved to explore. This I that you're so desperate to protect, this I that wakes up in the morning, that thinks, that worries, that plans. Can you find it? Not the sensation of it, not the story about it, but the I itself. Where is it? Is it your body? But your body's cells completely renew themselves every 7 years. Is it your mind? But thoughts change all the time. Is it your memories? But memories are constructions, not photographs. So what exactly are you protecting so fervently? Here comes the most disturbing insight from Eastern philosophy that Watts brought to the West. Fear exists because you believe in a fundamental separation. You believe there's an eyes in here and a threatening world out there. Subject and object, observer and observed, and all your vital energy is spent trying to protect this imaginary boundary. But what if this boundary never existed? What if you're not a thing separate from the universe, but rather the universe itself experiencing itself through this specific form, not as a poetic metaphor, but as literal fact? Think this is nonsense? Let's look at the facts. Science has already proven that you're not separate from the environment. Every breath you take connects you chemically with the atmosphere. Every food you eat was once part of another life form. You're constantly exchanging atoms with the world. So where exactly do you end and the world begin? But why is this illusion of separation so strong? Because it's useful. On a practical survival level, it's good to feel that you're an individual organism that needs to protect itself. The problem is, we don't stop there. We expand this notion of separation to everything. We separate good from bad, success from failure, life from death. And then we spend our entire lives trying to accumulate the good side and avoid the bad side. That's guaranteed exhaustion. It's like trying to have a mountain with only peaks, no valleys, like having waves with only crests, no troughs. It's not possible. Watts said the universe works by polarity, not opposition. You can't have pleasure without pain, joy without sadness, life without death. They're not enemies. They're complementary aspects of the same dance. When you resist one pole, you freeze the natural movement of existence. And that's where suffering is born. So what's the antidote to fear? It's not courage. Courage is still within the game of duality, still presupposes there's something to fear and you need to be strong enough to face it. The true antidote is recognition. The recognition that there's nobody to be afraid. This sounds radical because it is. You've spent your entire life building this identity, this story about who you are, your traumas, your achievements, your fears, your dreams. And now someone comes and says, all of this is just a story, a very convincing fiction, but still fiction. The question isn't who you are. The question is, can you exist without that question? Here's a thought experiment Watts loved to propose. Imagine you're watching a horror movie. The protagonist is being chased by a killer. You feel the tension, your heart races, your palms sweat. But at no point do you jump from your seat to run from the theater. Why? Because you know it's a movie. You're immersed in the story, but not confused with it. Now what if your life is exactly that? An absolutely convincing movie, with complex characters, exciting plot twists, intense drama, but still a movie. And you're not the character. You're the consciousness that's watching. You're the screen where everything appears. And when you realize this, something extraordinary happens. Fear doesn't disappear like magic, but it loses the absolute power it had over you, because now you know you're part of the game, not the victim of it. This doesn't mean becoming an emotionless robot or someone irresponsible who doesn't care about anything, quite the opposite. When you stop being paralyzed by fear, you can finally act with clarity. You can play the game of life with total commitment, knowing it's a game. You can fall deeply in love, knowing everything is temporary. You can build, create, dream, without needing these things to define who you are. It's the difference between acting in a play, giving it your all, and actually believing you are the character. A brilliant actor surrenders completely to the role, but when the curtains close, he goes home. He doesn't carry the character's drama into real life. You can do the same, but there's an even deeper secret that few know. Fear isn't just something to be overcome. It's a door. When you really look at fear, without running away, without distracting, without rationalizing, something surprising happens. Fear reveals itself as pure energy. It's neither good nor bad. It's life force itself manifesting. The problem was never the fear. The problem is the story you tell about it, the story that you need to get rid of it, that its presence means something is wrong, that you need to be different from what you are now. That story is the real prison. And Watts had a brutal way of exposing this. He would ask, who is afraid of fear? You say, I am afraid, but who is this I that possesses the fear? And if you look closely, you'll realize there's no I separate from the fear. There's only the sensation you call fear, and you, the I, arise simultaneously as the one experiencing the sensation. Subject and object are born together and die together. When the sensation passes, where were you? This brings us to the final revelation. You're not in the universe. You're an event the universe is doing. In the same way that a wave isn't something separate from the ocean moving through it, you are the entire cosmos expressing itself at this specific point in space-time. Alan Watts said, "You didn't come into this world, you came out of it. Like an apple comes out of an apple tree. The universe didn't create you. The universe is youing right now." And when you truly understand this, not intellectually, but viscerally, the fundamental fear dissolves, because there's no longer anyone separate who can be threatened. There's only the continuous process of life happening. You're as safe as you can be, because you were never separate from the whole. You are the whole, playing at being a part. So here's the conclusion nobody wants to hear, but everyone needs to. You won't get rid of fear by reading this text. You won't get enlightened by watching this video, because there's nobody to get enlightened. Enlightenment, the way Watts understood it, isn't acquiring something new. It's losing something old. It's losing the illusion that you're a separate, fragile thing that needs to constantly protect itself. And this doesn't happen through effort. It happens through seeing that the you think you are never existed. And in the space where this you should be, there's only pure consciousness watching everything with infinite curiosity. Fear may continue to appear, but it appears in you, not to you, like clouds passing through the sky. The sky doesn't get scared of the clouds, and you, deep down, are the sky. If these words resonated somewhere deep inside you, if something in you recognized this truth before even fully understanding it, then share this with someone who's also trapped in the game. Leave a like if this video touched something real, and subscribe to this channel, because this awakening journey doesn't end here. There are even deeper layers of this illusion for us to explore together. See you in the next video. Until then, remember, you were never the character. You were always the consciousness watching the story unfold, and in that consciousness there is no fear. Only infinite, eternal, unbreakable presence.